Hey, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, and you?
I'm really good and I'm excited, as I was just saying, because this is something that I'm really passionate about too. As I told you in my messages, like I've been in a relationship that was really toxic and really detrimental to my mental health and my well-being. And so just the entire process of leaving that relationship and also like learning to love myself and understanding that it doesn't have to be that way because that's what I believed at the time. Like all that
Mhm.
process for me, it was so meaningful and so important. And I just saw your post. Like, this is so crazy because I don't know if I've been following you for a while now. I was just checking this reel that you did, and suddenly I'm reading the captions and I'm like, damn, oh damn, oh damn. And I'm like, I gotta have her on my podcast. Like, this is exactly what I want people to like understand, you know? It
Mm.
just like connected to me so deeply. And so first of all, thank you for sharing that, you know? Thank you for putting that out there and helping other women like figure this out and really find the partner of their dreams and also become someone that can hold space for that, become a
Hmm.
woman of their dreams too, you know? So
I'm
thank
so
you.
glad. I'm so glad it resonated and it touched you in that way. And I'm really glad that I'm here. So thank you for inviting me and giving me the space to share my message with other women that will find this podcast. And yeah, it's so crazy. Like there's so many women that have gone through this, and the amount of the toxicity is like really arranged. Like sometimes it's really subtle and covered, and sometimes
Mhm.
it's like really in our faces. And even though it's so painful and so much suffering, we're still having so much difficulty acknowledging that, because
Yeah.
that was my case. Like I was in personal development. I was reading all the books, all the things, and my relationship was extremely toxic. I was
Mhm.
experiencing mental abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, and financial abuse. And that was the
Wow.
first time that I was experiencing that kind of abuse, the financial part. And
Do you
even
want to
though,
talk about that a little? Because I don't know
yeah,
what
of
that means.
course. Yeah. So in my case, my partner at the time got kind of into gambling.
Oh.
And it was more covert than actual gambling. It was like um setting actions at the, I forget the word.
Like stock?
Yeah, the stock market. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, okay.
Brain fog. The stock market. And at first he did a lot of money when he first did it the first months. And then after that he started losing all his money. And
Okay.
every time the cycle would be like at the end of the month when the rent was due and everything was about to be paid, he will lose everything, and then I would have to pay for it because we were living together, and so I wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah.
help. I wanted to be a good partner. So every month I would be like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this. And at first it was really coming from me because I was like, oh, it didn't went well this month,
Yeah.
but I trust him, blah blah blah. And then afterwards the abuse was much more covered, and there would be like a lot of emotional manipulation
Mm-hmm.
towards that. And so I felt like obligated to give
Oh,
him and pay for him in many different things. And
yeah.
so it just kept building up for 2 years and paying more and more for him. And the cycle really never ended
Yeah.
until I left this relationship. And the crazy part is that even after I left the relationship, which by the way, it wasn't in my full sovereignty, life kind of pushed me in that direction. I haven't shared the full story yet, and I'm sure one day I will when I
Mm-hmm.
feel that I'm ready.
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful for life from pushing me from that relationship, even though at first like it really felt like I died
Mm-hmm.
from that event, which I did in different ways, like emotionally and spiritually. But even after that, the financial abuse continued, and I was so like, oh, I want to help him. He's not doing well, blah blah blah. That was the story that kept me there, and it continued like a year after the relationship in much smaller ways, but still, I couldn't kind of put my foot down and cut everything because I cared for him.
Yeah.
And so that is what I say, like it's sometimes you have it in your face and you're into personal development, you are doing the work and everything, but because you have a certain blueprint or a certain unconscious imprints in a certain aspect of your life, it's totally unconscious and you don't realize it's happening. Even though the suffering is there, even though the behaviors, the patterns are there, it's like you don't have any other evidence than that it's easy to convince yourself that it's like temporary, that he was mad, that he was not feeling good, then this, then that. But there's always an excuse because you don't really know the real evidence outside of that. What you were saying before is like, that's what I believed at the time. But when you go to the other side and you see beyond the relationship and the pattern, you're like, wait a minute, that's not love actually. And that is not how it's supposed to be in relationships. Wait, what? And I remember the time that it hit me, I was like, as if like there was someone else doing life. And then I woke up and I was like, what's happening?
I love that, honestly. That's such a roller coaster. I feel you on that. I mean, as you were talking, I kind of remember that my ex, he used to kind of guilt trip me for like paying things when he wanted to. Like he would kind of help out of his own will. And then he would be like, "Oh, but I do this and I do that, so you should like clean the house or you should do this." And like he would kind of use that against me in many ways. And it was like always a big thing. Like he was doing me such a big favor when he wanted to do it, but it was like perceive me as a good person, you know? He just wanted to force me to see him as like this amazing person. And he used money a lot against me in that sense. But it's really crazy what you said. It's like when you're in the situation and when you have a certain, I think it's your subconscious mind, like certain things are at play inside of you that don't allow you to see how bad the situation actually is. Because like, damn, when you go outside and when you look at the like picture, and even if you see the same situation that is happening to you happen to your friends, you're like, red flag, be careful, leave the leave the guy. But when you're like in that situation, because there's so much emotional like stuff going on, it's so hard to see. And I really feel like this is so important because we end up perpetuating things and relationships and patterns that we don't want for ourselves.
Exactly. No, totally. And that's why I decided to do the work that I do, because after going through that path myself, I was like, there's people that are experiencing worse than I experienced, and mine was pretty brutal. And so I can't imagine like when you are in a family dynamic and there's children involved, how harder it is to wake up to the realization and the truth that you're not happy and that you're experiencing abuse, and then the fear that comes with making that decision as well, because it's not just you have kids as well. And like, as we say, it's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and it's like that was the dynamic that I experienced. And now through time, as I healed that relationship, having conversations with my mom, that's the thing that she told me, like she always wanted to leave, but she didn't have the power to do so. And so when you see that, is like we learn and model the people that are around us growing up, and that is literally the blueprint that we create of life and every aspect of life. And so most of the time is like you said, it's like your unconscious mind is literally directing 95% of everything we do, everything we think, how we act every day of our lives. And so most of the time we want something like a healthy, conscious, fulfilling relationship, and that we are conscious that we want that, and we say that, oh, I want love, I want this, and now I want to be happy and I want peace. But then you continue experiencing the total opposite day after day after day, and you still think that that's what you're choosing, but you're not, because your heart is saying one thing and wanting one thing, and then your patterns are leading you in another direction. And because that's how we work and how we are wired, then it's like literally an internal filter that is filtering all information around you. And I love to refer to the unconscious as your own algorithm. And it's truly like social media. It's like the more you interact with certain things, the more you will see them in your feed, in your explore page, in your For You page, whatever the app you're in. And the less you interact with a certain type of content, the less it will be shown to you. And so we think that because we say, oh, I want a healthy partner, committed partner, I want love, all of this, that's what we're going to get. But we're not attracting that. We're attracting who we are at a core. And who we are at a core is the sum of all of those unconscious imprints that made us who we are today through our conditioning, what we learned. And yeah, so when we see this like that, then it's easier to kind of have a higher view, a bird's eye view of our patterns, because it's like, okay, I want this, but the only thing I'm experiencing is this. So why is there a disconnect?
Yeah.
Why is there a dissonance? And oftentimes that will lead you to the path of like self-discovery, self-awareness, and becoming aware of the trauma you're carrying, the limiting beliefs you believe about life, about yourself. And ultimately, those beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies, because one thing that I love to share about the unconscious mind is that it works perfectly. Like there's no fail results, and there's no problems. Like literally every problem that we experience as a problem is a solution. At some point in time in your life, that behavior, that way of being, that thought process, that emotion was the best solution at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And through time, those programs are definitely outdated because they don't serve us anymore. Yeah. And so we feel stuck in that, but it's because we're just trying to get rid of that. Mm-hmm. But your unconscious is so intelligent. It's like, but I'm protecting you. This is how we roll. This is how you stay safe and alive. And so when we try to fight back, it's never going to work, because it's not a problem. But when we understand it's a solution, then we can refine and become more conscious into connecting with our conscious mind to then reframe that and change it. So yeah, it takes definitely a lot of awareness and responsibility for sure to be able to heal those things that we actually don't see. But then when we have opportunities, that life or situations where those blueprints are reflected back to us in our reality, then it's an opportunity for us to take responsibility and be like, okay, wait, I'm experiencing this all over again all the time, but I actually don't want that. So what can I do now to be more aligned with what I actually want?
Mm-hmm. I love that, actually. Like, I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. Like, it makes it much more understandable, because I think sometimes we talk about these things and it's all over kind of up in the air, like there's no tangible way to like describe these things. And I think that makes it really easier for the people listening, because it's like when you recognize these patterns, because you're probably going to come to a point where you're like, okay, like I keep attracting like toxic people into my life. I keep attracting the bad guys or whatever. And you're like, why? Right? Because you don't want them. And giving yourself a chance to be like, okay, instead of like pointing fingers at like the guys that treat me like shit or whatever, I'm gonna start reflecting on like what is happening within me that is kind of facilitating that to happen. Because we all face situations where toxic people come into contact, let's say, with us. But when you're like when you have better mechanisms that serve the vision that you have for your life now, and when you're more in alignment, like when your subconscious is more in alignment with that the things that you want to create, rather than still being in the past and having those coping mechanisms that we kind of learn as kids, because we don't know how to cope with the world, we don't know how to cope with certain things in our lives. And so when we break that, we still recognize that, okay, this person is toxic, and we just don't make space for them in our lives. And I think when your subconscious is not really aligned with that consciousness and your intention to have healthy people in your life, you, without knowing, you are actually just accepting those people because it's normal to you. It's what's familiar. It kind of feels safe, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. One, I'm running a program that is all about this, healing your unconscious blueprint
Mm-hmm.
to attract your dream partner. And as I was doing a module, I received this phrase, and I feel like it's the perfect like line to describe what's happening. And it's like, your mind will always find comfort in sameness, but your heart only finds comfort in truth. And
Wow.
so it's like your mind will always try to get attached to the situations, the circumstances, and the people that are matched to that familiarity. And so if chaos has been familiar to you emotionally, energetically, in your nervous system, because that's the environment or the energy that you learn to tolerate growing up,
Mm-hmm.
then people that will resonate that or reflect that back to you in your life, mirror that back, it will feel familiar. And so
Yeah.
naturally your mind will choose up those people and will want to be around those people because it feels familiar, so it's
Yeah.
comfortable. But no matter how much you try to convince yourself, how many lies you tell yourself, how many excuses you give to do for those people, in your heart, there's always a part of you that's like,
Yeah.
why is this really supposed to be like this? Why is it so
Mm.
hard? This is not what I want. Like,
Yeah.
there's always a part of you, no matter how tame it is, there's a little thread of light, no matter how small it is, that you can feel inside of you that's like, wait a minute, I didn't want to sign up for this,
Yeah.
even though
I,
you continue. So
mhm.
that's when you don't feel really in alignment, you don't feel in satisfaction. Most chances are that you're not really in truth. And so that's why your heart keeps like trying to be like, wait, what are we doing? Please make it
Yeah.
stop. But then our mind is just seeking more of what's familiar. And that's the loop that most of us get trapped into.
Mhm. No, yeah, for sure. That made so much sense to me. It's like no matter how much you try to hide from the truth, oh, it will continue to like penetrate all the lies that you tell yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It will just continue to come back to the surface and it gets louder as time passes. This is what I experienced because I was 7 years with this person, and the last like 2 years it kept getting louder and louder, and it was harder to like ignore. It was harder to
Mm-hmm.
be in denial that like this was okay, that it was gonna like go away and everything was gonna be all right, that he was gonna be better, like because you say those things because you want to stay, you want to be comfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
something that you said, it's like it's safe to have someone that kind of perpetuates what you've experienced in your childhood. Like my parents were very abusive, and they were always I was almost gonna say farting. They were like always arguing in the house, and so that's like what I normalized while I was growing up. And me
Mm-hmm.
and my ex were always arguing, like always, and it was super frustrating, but I think I was kind of addicted to it like in a way. And something
Yes.
that I think it's like your because your coping mechanisms are already adapted to the chaos and to the unhealthy. It's like, okay, let's choose this because we know how to deal with this, like we know how
Mm-hmm.
to like manage this situation. But if we
Exactly.
choose someone healthy, like what are we going to do? Like we don't know. And so that unknown, that feeling of you don't have like a plan, you don't have a strategy, you don't have like ways to deal with it, although it's healthy, it feels really unsafe to your in your body. Like it
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it raises all the like warning signs of like, oh my god, no, this is dangerous, this is like very hard. Or I've had people that I've known, they were in toxic relationships, then they got into a healthy one, but it kept feeling very unsafe to the point where they left. And now I understand that it's because, yeah, you just grow comfortable of that environment, of the toxicity, of the like fight, of being in fight or flight. I think
Yes.
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally what it is. It's a survival mechanism. It's like you're used to being survival instead of being in rest and digest and ease and safety in your nervous system. And so because that's what's familiar, like the job of your unconscious is to keep you alive. And so if you unconsciously assume that what's comfortable and safe is toxicity, then everything that is outside of that feels unsafe, because your unconscious mind doesn't have any evidence of what it's like and what resources it needs and everything. And so as much as it's not rational at all, that's what's happening at a deeper level. And that's why, in my opinion, healing any kind of wound, and especially those type of relationships, of those patterns in relationship, I would say it's so important to understand the unconscious, but also know how to engage the unconscious in the healing process. Because I did the mistake of like reading all the books, listening to all the podcasts, and doing meditations. And meditations is good to access your unconscious mind, but sometimes when there's deep trauma, you cannot really do it by yourself. It's not that it's impossible, but you were never meant to do that by yourself, because the trauma, the wound was created in relationship. And so it's in relationship that it will be healed, because it's a biodynamic that you are into. And when the wound is created in that dynamic, then there's needs to be another pole to kind of rebalance everything. And as human beings, it's not a coincidence that one of our human needs is belonging and community. And often we forget that, and we're like, well, I have the tools, I can do it myself. And it's true, we can heal by ourselves, but we must bring awareness into the fact that no matter how healed you are, the wound can always be reactivated once you're in a dynamic of relationship, because that's where the wound was born, was created. And so it's in that environment that the wound would finally heal and kind of be completed. The process of healing will be completed. And so, yeah, I see so many people like getting into the trap of like, I'm not healed enough, I need to be more healed, or I'm going to attract someone only when I'll be fully healed. But that's totally a misconception, because we're never really fully healed. We're never complete. It's like, it's an ongoing process where we get to discover ourselves more and more and more, and stay present in that process. And the thing I wanted to say with that is that when you're by yourself, your unconscious mechanisms are unconscious for a reason. And so you might try to be like, okay, I want to understand, I want to know how, I want to know why. And life will naturally, divinely guide you to be more self-aware, to know more of yourself, because in my opinion, that's what we came here. It's like to evolve as souls. And so naturally life is in that relationship with you. And so, as you said, it can get louder and louder and louder inside. But when you really repress that completely inside, then life wants the best of you, wants your best expansion. And so it will definitely use other symptoms to show you, because it's there.
Can you give me a few examples of those symptoms?
I mean, it could be literally physical illness. I know people that have developed like autoimmune issues or things like that because they were repressing something internally. And so it manifested in physical symptoms. It can be just in your life. Like you're trying to evolve in other aspects of your life, let's say your business, let's say other things, but you're always pulled back and everything doesn't work because you're not fully in your power, you're not fully aligned in that part of your life. And so it's hard to then have the resources to evolve.
Bob. I think my dog was sorry.
No worries, go ahead.
Sorry.
I totally understand. I have a dog too. But yeah, I was saying is like, you can try, but then it's like, it's always in your face of like, there's something holding you back, and sometimes you don't make the link that it's like, oh, my toxic relationship is taking a toll on me, is draining me. And so I cannot show up in my full potential here and here and here. And so you see those manifestation in your reality through other aspects of your lives, but often it's just a symptom to link you back to the root cause.
I love that.
Just like when you have a headache, it's like that's just a symptom, but the root cause, maybe it's that you are dehydrated, maybe you have a virus. There's multiple root causes, but if you just like see it as a headache, you will never really find a solution for what it is.
Just a temporary fix.
Exactly. You can take a Tylenol, but then it's gonna, an Advil or something, it's gonna come back and come back and come back. And there's so much you can do with that. And anyway, the body is so intelligent that it cannot not communicate. Like that's another rule of the unconscious, is that it cannot not communicate, because energy is everything. And so if there's a type of energy that is present within you, and that is the energy that you're emanating from moment to moment, and that you're expressing in your reality from moment to moment, no matter how much you can put your like roses glasses on, the energy is still there.
Yeah.
And it cannot not communicate. And so it will communicate in some sort. Yeah. And it will get more intense through time the more you try to move away from it.
Yeah.
And what I like to use as a symbolic is like, the more you try to tame that down, the more dissociation you're having between you and your truth, you and your center. And so the more, the bigger the gap, the more intense the crisis or the chaos is needed to kind of flip back reroute you back into your center, because you've gone really, really far away. Like you need a lot of energy to come back. It would be the same thing of like, you're on the route and you have your GPS. If you go and listen to the opposite or do the opposite of what your GPS is doing, it's going to reroute and reroute. But every time you reroute, there's more time that is added to the road trip. And in that sense, it's the amount of energy that it will be needed to bring you back to the right path.
I love that. Damn, you have a really good way of putting your words. It's incredible. I love that. Because it's like, I don't know, I just feel like this is such an important conversation to have. And the way that gap exists, like I resonate with that, because for the entire, relationship, I felt like I was just getting further and further away from my truth and myself. And that creates a lot of chaos. And I felt like all the other areas of my life were not moving forward, especially in my business, because I was already starting something at the time. It was different from what I'm doing now. But basically, I just kept feeling like nothing was happening. I tried to push through. I tried to like make it happen. But I just kept coming back to the same place. And I tried to avoid it so many times, like the root cause of this. I was like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's that. And it always pulled me back into this, which was like, this person, this situation is not allowing you to be in a safe place. Like if you don't feel safe, if your fight or flight is constantly activated and being triggered, you're not going to have the energy to cultivate good things in your life. It's just impossible because you're still in suffering. You're still in the depression or the hurt or the anxiety. And in that, and from that headspace, you can't really cultivate a good like thing. You can't create something good out of something really bad and really like toxic, and almost it's poisonous for you. I think
definitely.
it's really poisonous for your soul.
And in every way, because when you're in fight or flight, you are creating hormones that are fight or flight responses. So cortisol and so many other hormones that are literally acidic for your system, and that creates diseases. So it's like in the physical aspect, you're literally brewing and making the cocktail to like for your immune system to be down. And energetically, you're literally drained from trying to survive that environment. And so with that, mentally, you're not fully clear. You're mostly fogged. You cannot see clearly. And so if you're trying to create from that place, most chances are that you will feel stuck and that there is no nothing that can come out of you because you're already like empty.
Yeah, exactly. And something that I constantly felt during my relationship, especially the last year that we were together, was constant anxiety, like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know where it was coming from. I was just like constantly like anxious for something. Like I was breathing and suddenly like I had heart palpitations like out of
Mm.
nowhere. And I didn't understand why. And suddenly like after that like they just stopped. Like I don't have anxiety nowadays. Only like if I'm nervous about something specific, but it's usually not there. And we start kind of associating ourselves with, I have anxiety, or I have this, or maybe this is just the way it is, because it becomes so frequent that we stop realizing that there is a root cause for that
Mm-hmm.
to be there.
Yeah, I know.
And it just allows us to dismiss the actual problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Because and it's not just like our own ignorance of our patterns, but it's also the conditioning that we were raised into the
Yeah.
society. We pay much more attention to the labels and to the diagnostic itself than what is actually causing what's happening. And so
Yeah.
it's also just what we learn to do. It's like, oh, if you have this, you just take that and it's going to be fixed. If you have, but never to like go forward and look
Yeah.
beyond what's happening to actually go to the root cause and not tolerate those symptoms with something to patch it on top, So
Yeah.
it's like also being aware of that it's how we were conditioned to think in this society. So the mix of those things is like for sure an easy trap for us to stay longer in situations that really don't serve us.
Yeah. I love that. So I'm guessing that after your relationship, I mean, for what I know now, you have a partner, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
how was that journey? Because I know, as you were kind of commenting before, a lot of people feel like they have to be alone and they have to like, oh, I need to learn how to love myself. Like now it's about me. And sometimes it is like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
our truth is like, okay, it's time for me to connect. It's time for me to like get to a certain point in my relationship with myself. But eventually, like any type of wound that you have that is just like we were saying about relationships is only can only be truly healed in relationships, because otherwise it's not really getting triggered. Otherwise you're
Mm-hmm.
not really like it's not the same. It's like, for example, you're doing a lot of healing and then you go to a family dinner and suddenly it's like you haven't healed at all. It's kind of the same thing, because
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you're getting like literally confronted with your wounds again, with your beliefs, with like a deeper like deeper trauma, deeper belief systems. And and so it confronts you with that, which makes relationships very challenging in a way.
yeah.
And so it's like, how was your process to getting into a relationship? Like, tell us everything.
Yeah. So I agree with you. It's like, for me, how I see it is like most of what I was saying before, like when you get stuck into, I have to be healed to receive love, I have to be worthy enough to manifest that, I
Mhm.
have to be good enough, like the point that I'm good enough, then I can manifest that. So that are literally all mental concepts
Mhm.
with attached spirituality when you're in that space of personal development, but it's not truly in the body, it's not truly anchored in your reality, because the truth is you can meet someone the next day you broke up with that person and it doesn't mean it's not healthy because you met the person. There's a divine timing and a bigger orchestration that we cannot comprehend with our minds. And so in that sense, like, of course, when you're true to yourself, with yourself, and you are in your center, you can easily discern, okay, I really need time for myself and I need to work on this. And that's the decision I came to after the breakup. I was like, wait a minute, I've been only in toxic relationships. This was really brutal. Don't want to experience this ever again. And the truth is that I told myself that exact thing in my previous relationship before my
Yeah.
last toxic one, and I ended up in the same place. And so
Yeah.
this time it was like, but for real, this time, like I
Yeah.
had enough. I cannot betray myself this way ever again. And so I made it a commitment and a devotion to myself to never, never fall into that trap again. And so for me, it took like almost like 6-7 months that I was like fully in my healing process by myself. Most of the time I was by myself doing shadow work, having a coach, having hypnosis to like go into the root cause of everything. And like it was an ongoing process. I was really committed. And so in that process, like my direction and my vision was like, I'm focusing on myself. But the distinction there is that there was not a part of me that was closed necessarily to meeting someone. Like it was like just opening, but for sure it was not in my mind for a certain amount of time because that was not my intention at that moment. And I remember, I think it was like I broke up in January of 2020, and I remember in April of 2020 that I wrote in my journal like all the characteristic beliefs, interests, thing in common with my dream partner. So like it was a 4-month like where I was fully in my healing and not necessarily thinking about who would be my dream partner. And then I sat with that and I really wrote down everything. And so after that, I remember I started dating again a little bit after that. And of course, I had to embody what I preach now. I had to walk my talk. And I'm not saying that the universe tests you because I don't believe that, but I do believe that there's always an opportunity for us to rise and to anchor into matter what we believe in our mental body, what we feel in our emotional bodies. Like we need a situation to make it a manifestation. And that's the whole point of manifestation, is moving energy into matter. And so that's why I say, like, when you're just healing by yourself, you're not creating the opportunity for you to take all that knowledge, all those realizations, all of those new emotions, all of those new beliefs, and turning it into matter through action and embodiment in that situation. So before that, it's just like things you know and you understand, but then do you really like embody it? Do you really walk your talk? So that's the difference. It's at that point that knowledge turns into true knowing and like who you are.
Yeah, I love that. It's like you really need to apply what you've been learning, either about yourself or just like people that are in the self-development world. Like we learn a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that we actually know them in our body. Like it doesn't mean that we're actually going to be the person that we read about in our books or hear about on the podcast. It's like it's harder to apply for sure because
it takes responsibility and like radical honesty of like, okay, I know better now. Like it's time to do better now, because it's easy to get trapped in the familiar, as we talked before. So it's like when you're at the crossroad of being like, wait, I know this, it seems familiar, and I know what it's going to be like in down the road. Actually choose the unknown and actually choose to anchor this new belief or this new way of being now, even though that means I have to let go or close the door to something that seems nice or like comfortable, but I know the truth. So I'm making that choice and having my back right now. And so that's what happened to me. Like I first dated, I think I dated 2 men before my boyfriend. And it was kind of that. It was almost what I wanted, but with a lot of and in different degrees. The first one was pretty much as intense, but I detected the red flags really early. And I'm really glad that I listened to myself, because then I saw beyond the illusion and I realized that I would have gotten in the same thing again, even though I was healed, because I was just presented with an opportunity to really anchor what I just learned. And then after, it was just like getting better and better, but not exactly what I'm looking for, like there's still things that are clear to me in my heart that I didn't want to experience ever again. So that was a process of like dating people that I was excited of being like, oh my God, the feeling when you're dating again, and then the person is better than the one before, and you're like, oh my God, we're here. Like I manifested that person. It's the best thing I've known so far. But yet it's not. It's not totally. So for me, it was really the trust, the big catalyst for manifesting my 9 boyfriend, was the trust of like, I'm not settling. My vision is what I want to feel. And I want to feel unconditional love. I want to feel partnership. I want to feel healthy communication. That's what I want in a relationship.
Yeah.
And when I was dating and some sort of situation would appear, and then I would start experiencing the opposite of what I actually wanted, then it was my confirmation and my sign that I was not living what I actually wanted. And I knew how it ended before many times. So it's like, now that I know, am I willing to choose myself and that future version of me and my future partner, even though I don't know who it is, but am I willing to choose them today or choose something that I don't want?
Wow.
And
I love that.
so, yeah, so through that, then I met my boyfriend. Um, Not expectedly, as usual, the universe does magic. And yeah, everything unfolded. And it was literally everything that I've ever wanted. And so much caring, so much support, so much love that like you make an image in your mind and you envision certain things. And I'm sure all of us here, the ones
Yes.
that are listening
The
and
girl.
us too, have had that image for as long as we can remember. Because
Literally.
in our hearts, we know what kind of love and kind of expansion we want to experience in relationship. And even though we don't have that evidence in our physical reality, there's a part of us that knows. It knows.
Wow.
And so now having that evidence in my physical reality is just much more empowering to see myself and the version of myself 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that just kept committing and committing and devoting myself to that love, even though I had no evidence of it in my physical reality. But I trusted more the feeling in my heart than settling to what I was experiencing in my reality. And that was really the breakthrough to get where I wanted. And when you think about the process of a manifestation itself, through the spiritual lens, like it's like attracts like. And so if I would have settled for the second person that I met, even though in my heart I knew that it was not that person, then I was not a match to the version of me that wanted that love and to the version of me that was a match to my now boyfriend, because then I was not willing. I was not acting as if I could have that. But when you truly embody the full possibility of having that in your life, even though you don't know how or when, then that's when it's made manifest, because you're exactly the vibration, the energetic match for that person. And so I guess the biggest realization for me to meet my boyfriend was to realize that the reason I kept attracting emotionally unavailable men was because I was emotionally unavailable with myself, with those desires. I was not available for those desires. And so I kept shutting them down to settle for something else because I didn't believe it was true, or because I preferred being attached to what was familiar than my truth. And so just like when you're with a man and you're expressing your emotions and they lash at you because they don't have the capacity and they're emotionally unintelligent or closed, that's what's happening internally. It's like your soul, your heart is like, I want this. This is how I feel. This is what I want to experience. And you're like, no, like, no. And you're choosing something else. It's like you're being emotionally unavailable, not only to your desire itself, to the desire itself, but also to the person you want to manifest. Because you cannot be closed and open at the same time. You cannot choose someone else and be open for someone else too. It's like you're making space or taking the space for that manifestation through your every actions. And so when I said I was committed, it was like I was committed to my boyfriend even before I met him, because I knew that's what I wanted to experience. And so I had a conversation with my best friend the other day, and it was like, for real, the moment I healed and I made that commitment to myself, I felt the same way then that I feel now, because it was never about having a man to show me that or give me that. Of course, it's like that's the physical manifestation that we want to experience. If not, it's not fun. But in that sense of like the feeling that I was feeling all the time before and being committed to that possibility is exactly how I feel right now, because at that time I was committing to that emotionally and energetically, and now I have that physical commitment in partnership. But it was not different, because it's not, the love you want is not just like, once I have a man in my life, then I will experience the love I want to experience. It's like, no, the person you want to experience is a manifestation of you feeling that in your life.
Yeah. Wow. That was a lot. Oh my God. I'm so happy about this. There's so much to unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I feel like we could talk about this for hours. But I guess the first thing is like, you're talking about how you had other partners. I mean, did they get to the partner
Yeah, it
title
was
or
dating stage.
situationship kind of?
I didn't
Okay.
get to the committed part because I was like, yeah,
Okay,
no,
okay.
thank you.
That's good. That was a good choice. First of all, like I'm so happy for you, girl, because I know like we all want that so badly. Like it's in our hearts for a reason. And I think for a long time I felt like too much, too demanding, like my like bar was too high for anyone, and there is no one like that in the world. And yet my heart, it's like there's so much love, there's so much passion, there's like this dream, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel it, and I don't want to give up on it,
Yeah.
and right after my relationship I met someone, and we were in a kind of situationship where basically this person would treat me like much better for sure. Like he was incredible with me, and in many ways he showed me how much better it could be, which I'm really grateful for, because without that I feel like I would have lost faith in men at that point because of all my previous situations and my experiences. And so I'm grateful that I had that, but at the same time it was really hard because he was not ready to commit to a relationship. And so at the time I was like, well, I'm not ready to, because I just got out of a relationship, so that's fine. But really I think my heart was like, I want this, like I like you, I choose you, like I would be willing to marry you right now, and having that other person not feel that way, and yet you continue down that path and you continue to commit, you continue to give your energy to that. It's like you're literally lying to yourself, and you're putting yourself in such a dangerous situation emotionally for you, because it's inevitable that you're going to have to face the truth, which is this person is not ready to hold space for me. This person is not ready to commit. This person is not choosing me. This person is not emotionally intelligent or whatever. And you cannot wait for them to become someone that they aren't. Like you can, I think something that I've heard before, which I fully believe, it's you can trust the willingness for someone to learn. Like with my best friend, her and I have gone through so many stages of our friendship, but I've always stayed, not because she was always like an amazing friend, like she's always been an amazing friend, but she has evolved, or we've evolved our friendship because there was always that willingness to do better, and I trusted my heart with that. But if you don't see that willingness, if you feel that person is completely shutting you off, if that person continues to not assume you as like your girlfriend, as their partner, but still wants the treatment, still wants this, still wants that, like it's up to you to be real with yourself and be like, is this the situation that I want to be in? Like, is this what I truly want? Is this where I see myself, like continuing to perpetuate this? Like, where am I going with this? Like, right? And you have to really, like, I guess, be very, very honest, brutally honest with yourself, which is very uncomfortable. Unfortunately, I wasn't, or I guess fortunately, I still don't know. I guess I learned a lot of things from that experience, but at the time I wasn't ready to say no. I just kept going into that situation, and eventually had to leave my country, and so it kind of ended, but it couldn't have like it only ended because of him, like, because truthfully I was still like into it, but basically he was not ready for it anyway. So it kind of facilitated that for him to just break it off and like, okay, this is it. And for 8 months after that, like I swear, I feel like I struggled more with this situation than with my past relationship,
Of
because it
course.
was so hard to let go. Because for
Mm-hmm.
the first time, I felt like, oh my God, this person treats me right. Like, this is kind of what I want. And so you see the good part and you're like, this is it. Like, this is what I need. This is what I desire. But you want to ignore the rest. Like, you want to ignore where it's not serving you. You want to
Mm-hmm.
ignore the things that are like, okay, this is concerning if we want a future together. Right. And nowadays, I guess I am grateful for that experience, because it allowed me to understand that like I'm not willing to compromise anymore, because I know if I compromise, I'm not going to be happy, and I'm not going to honor my heart. And if I'm not honoring my heart, like I'm screwing up for myself,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not
100%.
creating the life that I desire. I'm not becoming the woman that I want, because the woman that I want to be, the woman that I try to be every single day, is like someone that is confident, someone that is in their power, someone that like owns what they want and what they desire. And if I'm just like, oh, whatever, yeah, you don't want to commit, sure, that's fine. Let's just stay in this situation. Like, it's not fair to me. It's not fair to the person that I want to become, right? And so I think it's really brave when we finally choose to be like, I'm not going to settle anymore. Like, it might take a month, it might take years, like it doesn't matter. And for me, that was really
Mm-hmm.
hard, because my entire life, I was always like starting a new relationship every single time I broke up. Like, it was always like
Mm-hmm.
relationship in, relationship out, relationship in. Like, there was always something. I commented this with my best friend actually, which is like sometimes I would be in love, sometimes I would be in a relationship, sometimes I would be heartbroken, sometimes I would have a crush, but there was always someone. There was always,
Mm-hmm.
there was always something romantic happening. And I think it scared me not having that, like finally letting go, which really pushed me to do the next stage of my healing, which is not relying on someone to love me to feel lovable. And
Mm-hmm.
something that you said that I genuinely resonate with, it's like you don't want the partner to give you that feeling of you're lovable. You attract that ideal partner, you attract your dream partner once you realize and once you truly feel lovable as you are. And I think that's something that I've been cultivating a lot. And as I do that, like I feel that wholeness within myself, like I feel home within myself. And I'm sure it's going to be really exciting when I call him my soulmate husband, like is there and I finally meet him. But I don't want to just be happy when he's here. Because
Mm-hmm.
if that was the case, he would never come really, because he's not
Exactly,
waiting.
because you're not being the version of you that would be a match to him, and vice versa. Like that's why it's so important to take responsibility in that case. And of course, like when you said that it was harder to not be with someone now having known better, because unconsciously always being involved is also a symptom of the root cause, is because there's something inside of you that really fears being alone, because maybe abandonment, rejection, whatever the root cause is. So it's easier to distract yourself choosing people even though they're treating you bad, and even though they're actually feeling you worse or triggering those traumas again and again. It's better unconsciously and more comfortable unconsciously than actually sitting by yourself and being
Yeah,
like, wait, maybe I'm not lovable because now I don't have anyone around me.
yeah,
And that's the fear, the unconscious fear, even though it's not true and it's not rational.
yeah.
And
It's
of course, and I read one of the books from David Data that is called Dear Lover. And he explains that for us as feminine beings, being in our feminine energy, one of the things that we crave or yearn the most for is presence and like being filled
mhm.
energetically, physically. The act
Emotion.
itself shows, yeah,
Yeah,
emotionally, everything. And so the moment we experience someone better, then we're just filled a little more than we were before. And then after that, it's scary because he calls him the man shaped void. It's like
mhm.
it's better to have someone you settle for energetically and emotionally and mentally for us women, because it feels safer than to deal with the him shaped void, because then we will feel unfilled by life.
Wow.
And so that void is scarier than settling for someone who almost feels us, even though they're not feeling us for real.
Yeah.
But understanding that concept is like, yeah, but am I really being filled in this relationship?
Yeah.
Am I really feeling fulfilled? Am I really feeling loved? And if the answer is no, or not to the degree that you actually want to feel in a relationship, then the man-shaped void is not really a void. It's just the space for that man to come into your life.
Wow.
And so just our reflection is just like, it's better to be alone than to be with someone who not only drains your energy, makes you feel so bad about your existence, and takes the space for the men that you actually want. So when you see like that, it's like, yeah, it's in my power to take responsibility, and it's in my power to make that happen, because without me, there's no vehicle, there's no channel, there's no container for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I love that. Because it's like, and something else that I feel like is a lot of us start with the toxic relationship. That's kind of the beginning of the journey. It's like we put ourselves in really bad situations. Mm-hmm. God knows how we survive. And then I think the second stage, it's like putting ourselves in situations that are not quite it yet. They kind of show us a little bit more, because we're also like, we feel a bit more confident, or we feel a bit more like safe within ourselves, but it's still not it. And yeah, I think we do tend to settle because we feel comfortable. But also something for personal to me, it was that I think I was like, in my subconscious mind, I was very used to feeling not chosen by someone. And so something that I feel like kept perpetuating is choosing people that were not fully ready to choose me. Mm-hmm. Because deep down I was not choosing myself, kind of what you said, like before, you like choosing myself, as in choosing my desire, choosing that like it's valid that I want certain things, it's valid that I want to be treated in a certain way. I feel like we feel like those things are so big, too big, because we don't have those examples, or at least most of us didn't have those good examples. I for sure didn't. And so it's like, it makes you feel like you're crazy, like you must be crazy for wanting something so big. But then like, it's not a coincidence, right?
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. And it's also understanding the bigger dynamic, as I said before, the society we live in. It's not only us that we don't have examples of healthy love, but men don't have example of healthy masculine. And so when we come with our emotions and our feminine chaos, which is totally valid in the essence of who we are, then we get denied, rejected, and even hurt purposefully, almost, because we have feelings, because we have emotions. And so the big fear of women is like the fear of being too much, to not look crazy, to not look too intense, to not be too demanding. But the fact that we experience that is because men don't have the ability to hold space, because they don't have LT masculine figures, and that all of that perpetuates in so many other ways. And so it's knowing also as women that we cannot settle because men don't have the resources within themselves, but to trust that as you evolve, your pool of people around you is evolving with you, and you're just attracting people that are better suited for yourself. And so I really believe that, of course, to this day and age, not so many people are evolved and awakened, because that's the reality of life. But it's understanding that if you have that desire, it's totally possible for you. And as long as you keep raising and choosing that, raising to that level and choosing that, then there's no way that your reality will match that. And the reason why my mission is so important in teaching all of this as well is that, like, feminine beings lead spiritually. Like, we feel emotion. We often are closer to our intuition because we are used to like being in the chaos. Like, we literally change cycle, or we have a cycle that changes 4 times a month. And through those cycles, we experience so many different hormones, emotions, and things. Men, it's like their cycle is year long, you know? So we have the ability of like going in all directions, all and feeling all the textures much more deeply. Mm-hmm. And that is our nature, meaning that we have a better ability to feel and see potential that is not yet in the physical realm, because we have the ability to feel it energetically and emotionally. Mm-hmm. And so when we understand that is our power, then we truly understand that choosing those desires that are not yet manifested, that don't exist in the physical reality, as crazy or delusional as you may sound or be perceived as, it is true. Yeah. It is true. And as long as you keep seeing that as delusional or crazy, you're just using the toxic masculine energy and the patriarchy to judge yourself through that lens. And so you're not honoring your gift to the world, which is feeling and love and radiance. Yeah. And it's only when we choose that we can fully step in our power. And so I was thinking about that with my friend and being like, if all of us, like from today tomorrow, like all women on earth fully stepped into their power, we're no longer willing to compromise. We're fully committed to the desires of love, healthy relationship. And all of us would be agreeing to that all together. Then men would have no choice but to raise in consciousness. Because if not, like, how would we continue life on earth? Like, we create souls, we create humans, and it's literally a responsibility to perpetrate karma or not. And so when we understand that is our power, that's like, then the people that choose you must see you to that level to understand what you're offering to the world to that level. Yeah. And I know not all men and most of men actually believe the opposite, because that's what patriarchy taught us. Yeah. But when we fully awaken to that or open our mind to that, then it's just like a no-brainer that it is for our highest good and for the highest good of all, not just us, but our children's and our children's and everything forward, for us to never settle again. Yeah. And to only commit to what we truly want. Because one thought that always came to my mind when I got out of that relationship and while I was experiencing all of that, the abuse, I was like, thanks the Lord, I don't have a child right now. Thanks, literally, Lord, I don't have a kid with that man right now. Mm-hmm. The trauma and the things that that kid would have experienced. Yeah. And in truth, that was us. Because our moms didn't have the ability. Peace. Our moms didn't have the resources and the consciousness and the awareness of making that decision, because time was different back then. Mm-hmm. But now in this time in history, like awareness and knowledge is everywhere. It's so easy to access. And this is one of them. Like, if it wasn't for knowledge like that, I wouldn't be where I am today. Literally. But it was my responsibility to take that knowledge and to anchor it and manifest it and become it. And so that's what I'm saying, is like, we have to see beyond just our safety and our comfort zone right now, and understanding that you committing to that desire, even if that means that you don't know how many days, weeks, months, or years you're gonna be alone or it's gonna take to meet that person. You just know the service and the gift you're giving to the world, and is to only align with the highest good of all, you know? Yeah.
I love that. I actually have a question for you. I've been debating this with my best friend, which is, and I actually don't fully know the answer to it. Because I also, at the time, I was still with my ex, but I decided to do a list. This was actually, I feel like that was actually the beginning of me like starting to realize certain things. Because I decided to do a list of my ideal partner, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to think about the situation that I'm in. Like, it doesn't matter if it's him in like a different version of himself. It doesn't matter if it's another person. Deep down, I was still in denial that it wasn't him. Deep down, I already knew, but I was like, okay, like it can still be him. Let's just like whatever. So I start writing it, and I write a bunch of things, and I've kind of like updated my list a few months ago. And it's very like detailed in a lot of ways, like not necessarily physical about the person. I do have a preference for brunettes, but that's like, it's not that important. It's more like how the relationship would be, like our communication, how he would treat me, all those things, like more specific
Mhm.
in that sense. And for me, it's very important that the person is self-aware, that the person has emotional maturity, all those things, right? And I've been debating this with my best friend, which is like, when is it, or is there any level where it's too much? Like, for example, I want all these things, and I meet someone, but also people grow, people learn. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
who I was, the year before or 2 years ago. And so there's this thing of like, when is it that we're creating too many standards in order to protect ourselves from getting hurt? And when is it true to our hearts? Like, when is it that, like, for example, being, for me, self-worth is super important, but my best friend, she says that maybe it's not necessarily that they're super aware, like maybe it matters more that they treat me right, and maybe that awareness will grow in time. But with my experience, it's like, okay, but I cannot trust potential. Like, I don't want to
Mhm.
do that
Mhm.
because I know where it leads to
Mhm.
bullshit,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's like, yeah, I think that that's it, like, because we cannot get caught up in the idea of someone or the potential of someone, but at the same time, is it fair to us and to someone else um to like raise the standards so high that it's almost like it's not a human being, like,
I know,
because
I understand.
perfect person doesn't exist, right? But maybe perfect
Yeah.
for us. Like, what is your opinion on all
I
this?
would say there's two things to unpack here. It's like, one, the belief of what makes it or cause you, what makes you believe that having an alignment with the person you want to the level you want it to is too much. Like,
Yeah.
it's unpacking that first. Like, where is it coming from? Of like, what is it there for me to uncover here? Where it's like, if you turn the perspective around and there's a guy out there writing a list about all the things that are important to him, and it's you, because you're looking for the same things. It's like,
Yeah.
would you tell him like it's too much, it doesn't exist, like you're being too much? It's like, not necessarily because I'm the evidence and the manifestation of that, because that's important to me too, you know?
Mhm.
So for sure, then after, we cannot project things onto people because then it's not healthy. So it's like, I guess I could use that example. It's easier. Like, if we
Yeah.
talk about like the feminine and masculine energy, which is the dynamic that happens in a relationship, one person is more in the masculine pole, one is more in the feminine pole, whatever their genders, like they're feminine, they're women, they're more masculine, they're men, they're more feminine. So it's not related to gender, but naturally, there's people that are more masculine in their essence and people that are more feminine in their essence.
Yeah.
So for us as feminine beings, they're really craving love and yearning for that for a long time. Um, the qualities of the masculine is direction and presence and holding. And it's like, you cannot change the direction of the masculine because the masculine is just, that is his purpose, to have a direction and to move. And so for us women, most of the time what we do is like, we're not happy where they are going, but we jump into the train anyway, and then we try
Yeah.
to change the direction, and it doesn't work.
Wow. It
And
doesn't
one of
work.
the things, I'm going to refer back to David Data, because that is the reference that he uses. It's like, the masculine is the train and we are the passenger, and so we can choose to opt on or opt off. That's our only job. And so
Mhm.
that's why the list then becomes super important in that sense, because where is the direction that you are yearning for, and where is your vision? And when I was saying the feminine leads spiritually, it's like, there's a vision deeper than what's possible here, or what you know possible here, that you hold in your heart. And so that is your own vision. But then the masculine is the protector, the safe space, and often is the one that is going to help you. It's going to lead you, take your hand and lead you in that direction to make it happen in the physical realm. When we're talking
Mhm.
about sacred union, polarity, that's really like the dance between the two partners. And so in that sense, if you are looking for someone self-aware, because that is your truth, that is your life, that is what you do on a day-to-day basis, but that is also who you are. It just makes sense that you are with someone that values that as much as you value it. Because the very reason you broke up with the other people is because they didn't value that to the level you valued it. And so there was a value conflict right there. And
yeah, and I think it's also because like it kind of like when you're in a relationship, at least this is my perception, if you don't have a certain level of awareness, it's hard to grow like
also
beyond that.
100%.
Especially if one of them is self-aware and one of them
100%.
has the ability to break patterns, to like go within and to check in with themselves. And if the other person doesn't have that, it's like, am I talking to a wall? Because they're not going to have the capacity to understand certain things, which is, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. That's also something that I realized. Like, just because someone isn't for you doesn't mean that they automatically suck or that they're bad people. It's just that like it's not gonna like be what I feel is best for me, which is someone that is able to accompany me in that growth, someone that is able to like have deep conversations of like, okay, I'm feeling this way, how are you feeling? Like I feel like that's a good dynamic for me, right?
100%. 100%. And that is the thing, is that your unconscious also is doing everything it's doing based on your values, whether they're conscious or unconscious. So it's just using a silly example, maybe for people listening, it's going to be easier. Let's say for you, health is really important and you work out, you eat healthy, you like take care of your mind, all of the things. So what a healthy person does. Imagine what a healthy person does on a day-to-day basis. That is it. And then you meet a partner that doesn't care about health. He smokes, he drinks pretty much every day. He eats junk food. He doesn't work out. He doesn't leave the couch. He listens, watch TV all day. Whatever the worst visual of someone who doesn't value health and value something else, comfort or whatever it is, then how those two people can really walk in the same direction? If they're not valuing the same things, how can there be a middle ground where they are evolving and moving together?
Yeah.
We can all agree that if those two people get together, they will be together by label, but they will not share anything in their lives because they're doing completely different things. And one person is like, I don't like what you're doing. The other person, I don't want to do what you're doing because that feels uncomfortable. And so they can be labeled as a relationship, but their day-to-day lives, they're walking in total opposite directions, but they stay together for comfort. Or they try to share things together, but then there's always conflict.
Yeah.
Because there's no middle ground. One cannot understand the other cannot understand the other, because there's no value that is the foundation of the relationship. And so that's why values are so important, to be aware of like, what is it important for you in a relationship?
Yeah.
And is it important for the other person? Because most of the time any relationship ends because there's a value conflict. One person values that more than the other, or they just value completely different things. And so you cannot evolve at that situation.
That makes a lot of sense. I resonate with that a lot, because I feel like the people that I want in my life, like in friendships and in every type of situation that I truly want in my inner circle, I want those people to like walk life with me, if that makes sense, right? Like I'm not saying that the person has to be like a male version of me, because I want dynamics. I want someone that can in a way challenge me in a healthy way, right? I mean, that's what relationship is also about, but in a way that deeply resonates with me. And I feel like in this example of being self-aware, like if I know I wouldn't ever be able to be with someone that is like so ignorant that they're like just perpetuating a lot of patterns. But yeah, those are like a few things that sometimes it's like, when can we like, what are the flexible things? Because obviously when we're writing this list, there are definitely things that are not as mandatory, like the
exactly 100%.
It's not really important. You know?
Yeah, that's the other part to unpack. So it's like when you meet that person, it's like you're feeling the alignment emotionally, mentally, energetically, but they're not necessarily doing everything you were thinking about the list. Let's say they're not in the job you wanted to, right? Let's say the job in a corporate job, but then you wanted to be with an entrepreneur because you like that too. Like things like that, where it's like it doesn't change the person necessarily, but my motto will always be date their reality, not their potential. Always. Wow. Because in their actions, daily actions, what they say, what they do, and if what they say and what they do is not aligned, neither are important. But it's like what they say and what they do, the alignment in what they say and what they do is what matters. Because maybe right now, let's say you were talking about providing, and the fact that other men in your life then put that in your face, money as a thing to kind of make you feel that. But let's say having the provider energy is important for you in your life, and right now they're starting their company and they don't have the mean to like give everything to you, but they have the devotion to that, and they speak to it, and they show it in different ways that maybe it's not money right now. It's not like, oh no, I don't want you because I wanted the money. So it's like being aware of like the alignment of it all, to the extent of like, yeah, not everyone is fully perfect, and we evolve as human beings, and not every season is the timing perfect either. But it's like, is there a willingness to go there? And in their actions right now, are they going there whether I'm with them or not?
Wow.
If they're going there by themselves without you having to show them or convince them or tell them or blah, 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 then it's a match, even if they're not yet there. Because they're in the pursuit of it. They're in the manifestation of it. It's just that they're not there yet. But in my opinion, it's as if they already are, because they're just manifesting it in their reality through their own commitment, through their own devotion. And so that's what I would say to look to, even if it's not totally that yet. Is there a commitment, and is that their reality right now? Yeah. Before you met them, before you knew them, are they actively doing that? And then after that, there's other things that you can realize were superficial for you in that list when you wrote that. And then you meet someone that gives you a different texture, or you expand your list because you're like, oh, wait, I wrote that, but actually that's what I want, because then you have an evidence in the physical reality. So it's like not to be fully attached with your list, but to be fully clear with what is important for you in your relationship. And it comes to what I was saying before. It's like I was committed to the feeling of feeling loved, of being in love with my life, in my relationship, receiving that back. And it didn't change because that was my direction. And I met someone whose direction was aligned with mine. And so I hopped on the train and I'm moving in that right direction. But I'm willing to up off at any moment in time if I see that the person decides to go on another way. Like that's also an important part, to be fully detached. It's like, I fully love my boyfriend with all my heart, and I would want to, like in the perfect world, that we end up together forever. But if for some reason there's not an alignment anymore, I'm always going to choose what I want. Yeah. Yourself. Because if it's not that, it just means that it's not the end, and there's someone better or someone better suited for me, and same thing for him. And that's the thing, is that we often don't realize that staying is a disservice to ourselves, but it's also a disservice to the other person. Yeah. Because we're either taking the opportunity for them to grow because we're giving them everything so they don't need to grow because it's easy for them. And so we think we're being a good partner. Like me, I kept giving the money and the money and the money because I wanted to be a good partner. I didn't want to abandon him in a hard time. But actually what was happening is that I was fixing everything for him, so it didn't have to take responsibility, and then he was not growing. I love that. But true love would have been to be like, I cannot give you that because I need it for myself, but because I love you, then go ahead and fix what you created, you know? Yeah. That would have been true love, true unconditional love. But because we put so much condition on it, then it becomes attachment, and it's not true love. Yeah, it's mothering. Yeah, exactly.
No, I had that same experience of feeling like at some point, like staying in the relationship was not only bad for me, but it was in a way a bit selfish because I already knew I had to leave, but I wasn't ready to take the action to do it. And I started realizing like I'm blocking him too. Like I'm not allowing him to do whatever he has to do in his life. Um and I don't know who he's gonna become. I don't know if I'll ever know. I don't need to know. But it's that like sometimes certain things need to end so that like something else happens, and as long
100%.
as you're like holding on and you're just like attaching yourself to that and you don't like fully cut those strings, it's not going to allow you and the other person to go on their journey. And yeah, I just feel like it's definitely like something that you said also, about how when you're meeting the like someone that could be your potential partner, your potential new partner, it's like you have to be like aware of how you feel, if it's what you want to feel like. And something that I find very important that I think a lot of people miss, especially in the beginning of this journey, it's like being very aware of what they're saying and if they're acting accordingly. That's something that I value so much nowadays. It's like the integrity, the like
Mhm.
cohesiveness, if that's a
Yeah.
word,
Yeah,
of
the
like,
currents, yeah.
yeah, of whether they're like being who they say they are and who they
Mhm.
say they want to be. That's really important for me. Because it's like, yeah, again, if you're just holding on to their words but their actions are not showing the same, it's basically the same as holding on to their potential, to who they could become, etc. And that's always gonna, or I mean, I would say almost always is gonna backfire a lot.
Exactly. And I would add to that, like, even when their actions are not aligned with their words, because I know many friends and women that meet men that are like, I'm not interested in a committed relationship. Then they get in a situationship, but then they treat them, the woman, as true potential or true girlfriend material. But they're like, but I told you I didn't want anything committed. But like the woman gets attached to their actions because they're like, oh, they do this for me, so maybe it's changing. They keep saying that, but
Yeah.
maybe
Oh
it's
my
gonna
God.
change. So it's like when the two doesn't match, even if their actions are louder than their words,
Mm-mm.
like it's not about like one being louder than the other. It's like if both are not aligned, it's a no. There's no
I
integrity,
love
there's no
that.
commitment.
Because that was my situation. Like he would
Exactly.
say no to the relationship, but the truth was everything. Like I got a Christmas gift, god damn it, like.
Yeah.
But then I didn't have like any type of proof that it would ever evolve from that. Besides his actions, I felt so much loved, like I never had before, and so I think I definitely held on to that. It was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of more confusing in a way, because
Yeah,
if,
100%.
if
Because you're
you're
like,
like,
wait, what?
yeah, it's like, but you're acting this way. Like you're giving me all of this. You're nurturing me in a way that I've like never been nurtured before. And yet then like what? Like it's much more confusing. I guess maybe it's even easier to get attached to that.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to lie to yourself like that because
Yeah,
you're getting the proof that okay, this
exactly.
person likes you, this person wants you, but then
Mm-hmm.
that's not actually what's happening.
Yeah.
And deep down what's happening is that the other person is lying to themselves as well.
Yeah,
Like they're
most
out of
most of the
integrity.
time, yeah.
Yeah, this is what I realized recently is like I used to put this person on a pedestal because like I did admire them for a lot of things. And suddenly I realized, like, damn, I've been so blind to this, which is they were out of integrity too. Because if they're saying they don't want a relationship, but they're willing to do all of that and they're willing to, like, just they get very close, but not close enough to like commit and to stay, that says something about them too. Like,
Yeah.
that's something they're not being true to themselves.
No. Yeah, either they're afraid of commitment and they're self-sabotaging by convincing themselves they don't want to be in a committed relationship, or they know they don't want to, but they want to keep you because they are codependent or attached, or they want someone in their lives, and so they keep you close by doing all of that, but they are fully aware they don't want the actual thing. So it can be both poles. That's why it's like no matter what it is, it's like if it doesn't match, you're
No.
better off out of it, no matter how good their action seems or how good their words are.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's a no-no.
Yeah.
Please don't get yourselves into that. That's bad. Um, oh yeah, that's great. I feel like I think there was something else that I wanted to say, but I don't remember anymore. I just think this conversation has been really enlightening to everyone that wants to have that and wants to create that like manifest that into their lives because it's
Hmm.
something that we we don't like we judge ourselves for, I feel like a lot of the times. And also society is not really like usually it's not the best container to make us believe that that's possible.
Yeah.
And it gives us all the proof supposedly of like what is not possible for us. And because at least in my current well actually in my current reality I feel like I have more proof that that's possible every day. Because it's funny, like as soon as you start allowing yourself to like trust that or to at least accept it and validate yourself for it, suddenly you start becoming a match. Like I've been meeting like amazing men, you know, not necessarily for dating, but just like amazing men in
Yeah.
general. And for
Mhm.
my entire lifetime, I've only had like toxic guys around me, and suddenly I'm meeting these like really healthy people, very conscious, very like aware, they're grounded, and I'm like, damn, okay, they're not necessarily
Mhm.
what I want, and so I'm not even going there, or they're older or whatever, but they're like, it's like the universe is showing examples of
Yes.
what I can have, and it's really like allowing me to trust that even more. and
Yes.
and so although part of me is like, what if it takes 10 years? It's a bit scary for sure. Like it's not always easy. Like sometimes I'm like really needy, sometimes I feel horny and I'm like, oh my God, like when does this end? But it's like it's really embracing that and trusting like so deeply that like it's there's no reason to settle. Like I'm not willing to settle no matter
Mhm.
how like hard it gets sometimes, no matter how needy I feel. I'm not willing to do it because I already know the price, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What is the price to pay? That's what we have to remember. It's like not acting in alignment with their true, there's a price to pay to that all the time.
Yeah. And a big part of that is not being in your power like that.
Hmm.
And then that kind of like perpetuates, or that kind of starts reflecting into all these other areas of your life. And like what's the point in that, you know?
Hmm. So yeah, I feel like it's the best conclusion for
Yeah,
this
that was
conversation.
perfect.
For the one listening is like, yeah, as long as you are in alignment with your heart and keep your heart open, there's no way it's not gonna happen. It's actually just a matter of time
Yeah.
until you see it in your reality.
Yeah, it might not feel real. Like I think that a lot of people say it's just a matter of time. And I think if you're just starting this journey, it's like, but is it really? Because again, you don't have proof, but it's like allow allow yourself to trust a little bit more every day and like see how the universe like shows up. Because like besides the fact that I've been seeing all these amazing men around me, it's also like people that I've been coming in contact with, like you, like other people
Mm-hmm.
that do relationship coaching, and I'm like, wow, these guys have like beautiful relationships. Like I cry listening to their stories and I'm like, this is it. Like I feel it in my heart. Like I can't not wait for him. Like I want him. Like I'm ready for you, you know?
Mm-hmm. I know. That's the yearning of the feminine is like wanting it now because we're feeling the yearning to be filled right now. But it's like also as you said, is like the masculine is not only a person, it's life itself. And so the
Yeah.
more you start having the relationship with the masculine, the universe itself, the provider, the safe space, all of that, the more you kind of entertain that relationship because you're not only in relationship with people, you're in relationship with yourself, with your thoughts, with your emotions, and with life itself.
Yeah.
And so the more you entertain that relationship, the more you are filled and the more that void and that fear dissipates because you feel held, you feel
Yeah.
like you feel supported, you feel guided, you feel
Yeah.
provided for, even though it's not a physical man, there is
Yeah.
something bigger having your back. So
100%.
yeah, it's like looking for the evidence when in the places you think it's not evidence.
Yeah, no, literally, actually, it just reminded me of something. First of all, I totally agree with the being in a relationship with life. I call it the universe. It's like when I've been developing myself and creating a good or healthy relationship with the masculine, suddenly like I'm provided for in so many crazy ways. I feel like things are just coming to me. Like the universe just gives me a bunch of opportunities. Like it's literally out of the blue because I feel like the universe is the masculine. It's the provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. And actually a few months ago, yeah, I was thinking and reflecting back on my life and suddenly it hit me like everything that I've like experienced in relationships until now, literally everything, even with my parents, has been leading me to do this healing process. That is not a coincidence. It's because something big is there for you. If
Yeah.
you've been on this process for a while and you're like you've been facing these toxic people or these toxic situations and you're constantly on this loop, but it's like the universe is giving you an opportunity to open up more and more. And if the universe wants to open you, it's only because there's something for you to receive and it's big.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm into that.
Oh, I love this conversation. This was super, super
Yes.
good.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I hope
Oh, thank you.
everyone listening to this keeps that in their hearts as long as forever.
Yeah, literally. How can people find you if they want to reach you, if they want to work with you?
Yes, so I'm pretty active on all platforms, but I would say where would you see most of me is on Instagram, and my handle is Lina Maria G underscore. I guess I don't know if you put it on
Yeah,
the show
I
notes,
will
but
put
yeah,
everything in the
you can
description.
find it there. And yeah, you can see my link in bio. There's multiple free resources and also the ways you can work with me. But right now, I would say that most of my time in coaching and mentorship is in my new program called Open Hearted. That is a 3-month group coaching program to help women heal their relationship blueprint so that they manifest their dream partner. So if you resonated with anything we said today, I guess that would be a great start for you to check out.
Yeah. Yeah, Open Hearted feels like a perfect name, and I would definitely advise you guys to check it out because it's probably really fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and the woman inside is like not only where it's like a feeling of coming home because you're making that decision, but then you're surrounded with women that are walking the same path, and it truly feels like I keep saying that, but every woman that joins every month, it just feels like a reunion. It's like
Yeah.
we
Oh,
were waiting for this moment.
I love that. Thank you so much again. I enjoyed this conversation so much. Thank you for sharing
Me
your
too.
wisdom with us. And yeah, bye. Okay, good.
Bye.
I'm really bad with goodbyes.